And then like when it comes to, the times that we're living in popular culture, there has been more of this, from what I've seen, like online, this awareness of, yeah, we're talking about attachment, we're talking about relationships, we're talking about trauma bonding, we're talking about all these things. And what I have noticed is it's so easy to be like, oh, that person over there is avoidant, that person over there is like anxious. And we put these labels on people. And for one, people, like, no one is, people, we are complex. And so no one can be reduced down to just one label again. And you're doing so much of like the finger pointing and saying that person is avoidant, that person is, anxious or whatever it may be, where I believe attachment theory is a gateway to love because it can be a map to help you look at yourself and for you to learn about yourself of like, oh, I'm noticing I have these patterns and these tendencies that are associated with this particular category, which we will talk about. And, what are the things within me that need love, that need care, that need healing? And so when we're looking at the other person and not looking at ourselves, we do everyone a disservice. But attachment theory can be a map and a gateway to self-love, helping you understand how and why you show up in relationships. And also it can be a map to, yes, give you better discernment and understanding of how other people may interact with you. And it also can be a map for something we don't talk, I believe, enough about, with using this as a support to help teachers, coaches, again, those people in children's lives, to help them understand the importance of their nurturing their love in a child's life, right? Like when I have a 6-year-old and when my 6-year-old goes to school, I look at her teachers as, co-parents, right? Like they're part of the village. And the way that they show up, the way that they're able to be present in her life and like pour into her, it does impact her ability to feel secure and to feel well within herself. And so it takes all of us to nurture ourselves to the next level when it comes to evolution, when it comes to, again, that harmony and that connection I was talking about.
Wow. So you talked about this briefly in your response. You brought up different types of attachments. Um, and I just want to, just attack that question head on. What are the different types of attachment styles? I know that, there are multiple out there, I believe 4. I know that we're not held to just one and we can be multiple at the same time. Do you mind going into the different types of attachment and just speaking on, the characteristics of each type?
Yeah. Um, so one of John Bowlby's students, Mary Ainsworth, in the 1970s, had expanded this theory through her laboratory study called the strain situation. And so essentially, in the lab, mother, child were in the lab with a stranger. And what she was tracking was like, how does the child react to the mom when the mom is in the room and when she leaves the room, especially of course with the stranger being there. So just giving a little bit of context to these categories. And so also want to highlight, well, I guess going into it, I can just break it down with secure attachment. So through this study, through this strange situation, what she and her researchers were able to find, and this is research that continues to, like, from my understanding, be replicated in different like countries, like is very valid in its findings, right? It's something that is still remains very, what is the word I'm looking for? Just I don't know, but it's something, it's a core, right? Like it's something very strong and it has not wavered regarding some of the research. But what they have found is there are 4 types of attachment. So the very first type of attachment, that's based off of how the parents are showing up with their children, essentially, right? And so the parenting styles and how they influence the brain, and how it basically shapes the attachment system. And so what they have found is with people with infants who, when the mother returned into this lab and the infant had exhibited behaviors that looked secure, where they were responsive and they were able to engage with the parents, that this child had secure attachment, and that children that have secure attachment are, they have found that like our early childhood attachment systems are the things that basically superimpose how we attach to others when we become adults, right? And so like that's the early template. And so for secure, the parenting style is able to be present, able to offer the soothing to the child, able to offer that emotional regulation, help a child be able to organize their emotions. They are just present. So, like I think about my 6-year-old, she has a lot of like, look at me and play with me and be with me. And it's a parent that can meet those needs in that way. And so a child that grows up to have secure attachment is able to feel confident enough to explore the world around them because they have this, according to the theory, this internal base that is solid, right? Where it's solid, it feels secure, where they can go out and explore the world. They can explore to play, to engage with other people. And they have this internal working model that basically says, I am loved and I feel safe and I have a trust in self and I can trust the world. The other attachment styles, the other categories, are categories based in insecure attachment. And so the very first one is, I'm gonna go with the anxious, ambivalent, preoccupied. That has changed over the years. And so essentially that type of parenting that influences and shapes that type of attachment style is parenting that has been inconsistent, parenting styles that are intrusive, parenting styles that are hot and cold. And so what that child grows up learning about the world is, I have to work really hard at getting care and attention. Like I'm not getting my needs met. And so oftentimes folks who grow up with that style are described as being like clingy and needy and often looking out to receive regulation and soothing from other sources versus being able to generate that from within. So the internal working model for folks who have an anxious, ambivalent attachment style is, there's something like wrong with me. I'm not worthy. I don't have a trust of self. There's this higher trust in other people. Like there is this preoccupation centering other people outside of them. So that is the anxious attachment style. So the very next one is avoidant. And so when it comes to someone that has more avoidant attachment patterns, this person received parenting that was dismissing, where they had learned that I can't depend on my parent. They're too checked out for whatever reason. They don't have the capacity to be there. This infant, this child learns that I can't receive what I need from my caregiver. So therefore they adapt it by becoming self-reliant. Like only I can take care of myself. Only I can meet my emotional needs. And as someone with that attachment style, as they get older, that internal working model is, I have a lot of trust in self, but not a lot of trust for the outside world, for other people.
Now, do you think that that's contradicting?
Tell me more.
To say avoidant attachment, how could you be attached to something that you're actively trying to avoid?
I love that question. The avoidance strategy is an adaptation to the environment, right? That's the survival strategy. And oftentimes this is done like on an unconscious level, right? It's like, oh, well, because we all have that innate need, right? Like we all have that biological need to receive that type of care, that the soothing, the comfort from our caregivers. And so there is this unconscious need, right? This primal need for that type of connection. But the environments, the nurturing, right? You think of nature versus nurture. The nurturing has shown that isn't safe, that's not reliable. And so then therefore you adapt to be able to survive, right, the environment that you're in by learning how to regulate your emotions yourself, learning how to be self-reliant, learning how to take care of yourself in many different ways, not only just with your emotions. Even though, the literature will say that there's a lot of different studies that will show that folks who have this attachment style have a desire for that bonds, for that connection. But it's getting you have to work with the survival strategies that they developed and the defense mechanisms that they developed because of the environment that they were in as children. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes more
Okay.
sense. And is there
And I would love for you to, like, if I need to clarify anything.
Oh, no,
Okay.
that makes sense.
Okay. And then the very last one is the disorganized attachment pattern and or style. Sometimes people say just, there's patterns or styles, but disorganized. And essentially that is someone that had learned as a child that my parent was really scary. My parent was maybe even abusive. Like, my parents exhibited abusive behaviors, right?
So it's more so on the abuse part.
Yeah. So there was probably a history of abuse, neglect, but learned that my parent is scary to be around.
So scary and abuse. So for anxious, isn't neglect a part of anxious too?
I would imagine there's aspects in that as well. Mm-hmm.
But disorganized is just emphasis on
parent being scary.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a drunk.
Yeah.
Loud. Got it.
Yeah. And with disorganized attachment style, what you typically see is a person that has learned that love is scary, right? Like, and biologically, which I think is really fascinating, when a child's brain is being developed under those conditions, there are two structures that are being stimulated. There's the limbic system that is going out like that. We are mammals at the end of the day, and so our limbic system is wired. Like, it's part of one of the structures that is part of, like, the drive for connection and that need for connection. And so in the limbic structure, this need for the parent and the environment. So the child is going out seeking the soothing from the parents and realizing, right, from their experiences that this parent is scary. And so then therefore it also triggers the fight or flight system. And so both things, like, I want to connect and it's scary, so I need to flee, are being triggered. And so the child has this really intense neural structures and experiences happening within their bodies that basically is described as fear without resolution. And so when a child has that type of fear and those type of chemicals running through their body, they go into more of this collapsed state.
Check out today Attachment and Trauma Healing.